I always love dancing when that countdown music starts. Hello, hello. My name is Lauren Conaway. I am founder and CEO of InnovateHER KC, and we are bringing you IHKC Live. Once a month, we talk about issues that impact women plus leaders. We interview business owners and talk about the services and the products that they put out there. We have all kinds of important conversations about what's going on in our city and in our lives, and we have a lot of fun while doing it. If you're not aware, Innovate Her KC is a leadership community for women plus individuals looking to level up in their personal and professional lives. We have a focus on low barrier to entry and inclusion, and with over 6,600 members, we're kind of taking over Kansas City these days. It's been a beautiful journey to watch. So welcome to IHKC Live. Now, today, you're going to see a familiar face, someone that if you ever watch IHKC Live, you are probably aware of Cynthia Fails, incredible entrepreneur, author, publisher, exec producer of IHKC Live. Thank you, Cynthia. But we're going to be talking about navigating change. Not too long ago, we put out a poll and we said, hey, IHKC members, what do you want us to talk about? What do you want to hear about? And one of the poll results came back as change management, how to gracefully, efficiently, whatever your goal is, handle significant changes in your life. And I think we can all agree that recently, over the course of the past couple of years, we've had a lot of change. So a lot of us are trying to figure out that conversation. I'm going to go ahead and bring Cynthia up. We're going to kick it off with some quirky questions, as we always do. Welcome to the stage, Cynthia. How are you, friend?
I'm good. How are you, Lauren?
I am so good. So I
Good.
want to just really quickly point out Cynthia's title. Cynthia is here with us today, acting as she's an expert in a lot of things. But
Am I?
today, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Oh, you're awesome.
Okay, we'll say that.
But today, Cynthia is joining us as a joy expert, and one of the most intentional, thoughtful human beings I know. So the perfect person to have this conversation with. How are you doing today, Cynthia?
I'm holding on. This is going to be a busy day, but it's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am glad to hear it, and I love that manifestation that you always bring to the table. It's gonna be a good day. We're gonna make it a good day.
Absolutely.
Let's crack into some quirky questions. How do you feel?
Okay.
You a little
I'm ready.
nervous?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I don't know that I have any quirky questions that are gonna beat which tooth would you keep and what's the
Yeah,
weirdest thing you own, because those are two of my favorite conversations.
those will go down
But
in history.
I am going to ask you, and I think we have asked like a variation of this one before, but I just find it interesting.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, what is the weirdest thing you have ever eaten?
The weirdest thing I have ever eaten. Gosh. I feel like I should have asked these questions ahead of time because that I'm gonna have to think on that one.
All right. Well,
Define weird.
I'll give you some time to vamp, and I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you that the weirdest thing that I have ever eaten, it was actually, I guess I should say consumed, because it was actually a beverage.
Okay.
But so when I was in my early 20s, I worked at a bar called the Beale on Broadway. And above the bar, there was this giant bottle that the owner had brought back from Japan when he
Mhm.
visited. And it was a bottle of sake. But it also had pickled reptiles in this jar. Like there was a snake and there was a frog, and I mean it was just giant. It was so gross.
Okay.
And so one night after the bar had closed, we were sitting around, we were drinking, and I told myself, and I said it out loud, and I shouldn't have said it out loud, but I said, when I turn 21 on my 21st birthday, I want a shot of that bottle right at top of the bar. And they held me to it. So on my 21st birthday, one of the just pieces of nastiness that I imbibed was a shot of sake that had pickled reptile. Oh, it was so gross.
Was it?
But at that point, it was like, you're 21, and it was kind of a
You're
challenge thing.
here now.
You have to
Yeah.
do this now. Like you said it out loud. So yeah, it was not my favorite thing to imbibe.
Yeah.
But I did it, and now for the rest of my life, I can always say that I did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that story.
So there you go.
I
That's my
don't
my
is
weirdest thing.
quite a typical reptile. But I think this was in 7th grade, either 6th grade or 7th grade. My geography teacher
Yeah.
came back from winter break and had chocolate covered crickets for the class to try.
And you ate them?
I had a bite of one,
What
and
did
that
it
was all that
taste
I had.
like?
It was like a potato chip in terms of crunchiness.
Okay.
But there was chocolate, and then there was just like almost like if I had to imagine what dust tasted like, it was like dust, like
Ah,
chocolate covered dust with the crunch of a Lay's potato chip.
okay. Interesting. Well,
Yes.
and you know that like people there I can't remember what it's called, but there's like a condition where people eat dirt. So like
Mhm,
there's some people out there who like they crave it and
mhm.
it's what's it called? It tends to be something where you crave to eat dirt and then you crave like chewing on ice. There's like some kind of tactile thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Do I know the name of it? No.
I can't remember. All right, friends, if you can think of the name of it in the
Please put it in
comments,
the comments.
let us know. We probably got a $5 gift card or something with your name on it. Because
Yeah,
yeah, I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called when you Pika. It's called Pika.
there it is. Yep.
Yeah. So at any rate, you kind of experienced like Pika light because you weren't eating dust, but you were eating something that tasted like
I
dust.
didn't crave it though, I tell you that.
Yeah. All
I just hit
right.
the
Well,
head
see,
and then the
we're
rest was
both
gone.
so adventurous. Listen to us. All right. If let's see. If you could meet anyone in this world today, who would you meet? So living, not dead, in the world.
Anyone living in the world today, I think I would probably want to meet the first person that came to mind was Michelle Obama, and then it was like, no, Oprah, and then it was like, no, Barack Obama. So I'm gonna go with my gut and say Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama was actually like, she's in my top three for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Well, and much like you, I'm just like, it kind of depends on my mood. Like, if you
Yeah.
ask me, I'm like, there are a bunch of people that I want to meet, but it just
Mhm.
depends on, I don't know, what color the sky that is that
Right.
day. Like, whatever strikes me. But Michelle Obama is always in like my way top. I want to
Yeah.
ask her how she gets those arms.
Mhm.
And I want to thank her for being such a graceful and incredible leader and first lady. And then I want to be girlfriends with her. Like I feel like she would be one of those people that's like really easy to be friends with, like friendy
Yeah,
friends.
yeah,
Like, can we be
yeah.
besties
There's
now?
so many things that I would ask her about.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
many
like
things.
what?
That's between
Just
me and
just like a
Michelle.
good one.
I'll live stream it when it happens.
Okay.
How
I
about that?
honestly I do want you to know that like one of my someday I want Innovate Her KC to be well funded enough that we can afford to like hire the $100,000, $300,000 keynotes for
There you
events and
go.
stuff like that.
There you go.
And that's Michelle Obama land. She makes money
Yeah,
at her speaking engagements, but I would
yeah,
love to bring her into KC for an event. How cool would that be?
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So that's on the goal list. Um all right, so we're gonna go quirky question number 3,
Alrighty.
and eh, meh, meh, meh. Do you like Disney?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, like, what Disney character do you most identify with?
Oh my geez. Which
You're welcome.
thanks. There's so many eras of Disney.
I mean, it's a lot,
It
but
is, it is.
yeah.
Lauren, do you have an answer for this while I'm thinking?
I do kind of. I have 2 answers. I think
Okay.
I'm like a cross between Mulan and Belle from Beauty and the
Mm.
Beast.
Mhm.
Those are like my 2.
Mhm.
Nerd who reads a lot, lady who likes to get in trouble. Like, there you go.
Gotcha. I got you. Maybe, what's her name from Brave? Merida? Is that
Ooh, yeah.
that could
No,
be
she's a
you.
she's a really good one.
That could be you. Yep.
Okay.
Me, I don't know about me. Um, Name a character that is musically inclined, super creative, quirky, and funny. Drop it in the
Well,
comments.
so
Good
Anna from
luck.
Frozen is the one that like immediately sprang to mind, but I don't necessarily think of her as like crazy creative. And
Mm-mm.
that you're right, that is like a defining characteristic for you. What about
Yep.
Rapunzel? Because
Mm,
she does like the paintings and
she
stuff in her
does. Uh-huh.
tower, and like
Uh-huh.
she's creative.
Mhm.
I mean, you kind of have to be, and you have to have a really rich inner life to be, quarantined
Solo.
away from people for so long and
Right.
still stay amused,
This is
right?
true. This is true.
So maybe Rapunzel?
I don't know. Maybe that's a question for people in the comments. You heard the description, right?
Yeah.
Musically inclined, super creative, a little bit quirky, fun sense of humor. What Disney character best describes it? Drop it in the chat. I wanna know.
Drop it in the yeah, who do you think Cynthia should
I
be?
don't
I
know.
would
I
also
have
be
no idea.
interested to know Mirabelle. I don't Oh, yeah, Mirabelle. Okay, that's from, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. New
Yes.
one, newer one.
Encanto.
Encanto, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you,
thank you,
Amy,
Amy.
for weighing in, appreciate it.
Yes.
And actually, I'd be interested to hear, folks who are watching, what Disney character do you most align with? Incidentally, doesn't have to be a princess, although I feel like we're all kind of like main characters in our own stories, so that might be
We
what
are.
we're drawn to, and that's fine.
Yep.
But what Disney character? Because I kind of feel a little vibey off of Olaf too. I like to give warm hugs.
Mm, gotcha.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's get into it.
Sure.
So, Cynthia, first things first, I want to ask you, what is your relationship to change? Because I think as I was kind of thinking through this conversation that we're about to have, one of the things that I kept on realizing, or I kept on getting reminded of, is like people don't really tend to like change. People tend to
Mhm.
like routine and comfort. Hashtag not all people, but talk to us a little
Generally
bit about
speaking.
yeah, talk to us a little bit about how you feel about change.
Yeah, I think, generally speaking, for me, change is something that I kind of welcome with an asterisk, right? Of
Okay.
course, there are certain types of deep change that are, gonna be, more emotionally taxing or more mentally draining than others, but I tend to feel like on the other side of that change and walking through whatever that change is,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a better person, for it. So I welcome it,
You
even though
welcome it. Well, kind of with a caveat though.
Mhm, mhm.
Because when it
Um,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, I mean, the asterisk is there. I don't it's not that I'm going out seeking out change, right? But
Yeah.
when it's here, when it's present, when it's something that I need to deal with and something that I need to walk through, then I'm willing to walk through it, and I'm willing to walk through it with as open a mind as possible
Yeah.
so that I can see how it's gonna benefit me in the end, so
Well, and why do you think you have the caveat, and I would say that you're a pretty self-aware person, and you're very, as I said earlier, you're very thoughtful and you're very
Mhm.
intentional. In particular, I think as it kind of regards yourself, like I feel like you're a person who thinks through who you are and what you stand for and what you're all about. And it's one of the things that I love about you. So I'm going to go ahead and hazard a guess that maybe change isn't quite as difficult for you as it might be for some others, because I feel like you are constantly stretching yourself, like finding ways to reinvent or be creative, not just
Yeah.
in what you do, but in who you are. So talk to us a little bit about why change might be difficult for someone who doesn't gravitate toward it, or maybe not necessarily seek it out, but kind of
Yeah.
welcome it.
I
As
mean, it change doesn't feel good, right?
yeah,
It's a disruption. It feels like it sometimes can bring chaos. And those are not necessarily things that we want to welcome in our lives
yeah,
on a regular basis, right? And I understand why it doesn't feel good and why we don't like change. When you think about the potential for chaos that exists, right?
yeah.
But it's all in how we envision it. It's all in how we think about change that determines our relationship with it. So if I see it as a conduit for growth, then I'm going to be in that change, navigating through the chaos, looking for things that are going to help me to become a better human being at the end of it. But if I
Yeah.
see it as something that's disruptive, then what am I going to see? I'm going to see, oh, see, this happened. And yep, this is why I don't like change, right? We have
Yeah.
these, I call it the results cycle, that our thoughts will impact our actions, and our actions will impact our results, and our results will reinforce that original thought, no matter whether that was a positive thought or a negative thought.
Yeah.
Um, and so, depending on how you see change, will determine your relationship with it. And of course, it's not going to feel good. Even
Yeah.
if I have a more positive relationship with it, it still doesn't feel good. But if I can see the positive, if I can go into it looking for something that's going to help me, then that can change my relationship to change.
Yeah.
That
Well,
makes
and
sense.
I think that people are kind of naturally predisposed to avoid a few things, and
Mhm,
they seem to come along with change. Sometimes they come along with negativity. But when I think about change, I think of disruption. I think of
mhm,
discomfort.
mhm.
I think of friction, and I think of
Yep,
tension. And all
absolutely.
four of those things are things that people don't necessarily gravitate toward. And
Mhm,
so, like, I'll give you a for instance. So I recently started an EMBA program, and I'm loving it. But that first few sessions, those first few days, like I remember being so profoundly uncomfortable by the whole
mhm.
like it's been over 20 years since I've been in a formal school environment. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't sure exactly what my professors wanted. Like the first time I submitted a paper, I was so nervous to hit the button because I was like, I don't know. There are so many unknowns and so many intangibles right now that are outside my realm of comfort.
Mhm.
And it's one of the like I had to kind of have a conversation with myself and just be like, hey, you know, it's totally natural that this feels really weird. And
Yep.
unfortunately for you, Lauren, you're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to hit the submit button. You're going to have to raise your hand in class.
Mhm,
You're going to have to figure this out. You're going to have to move through it, and you're going to have to do so graciously rather
mhm.
than resisting at every point. And so is that what you mean by changing your relationship, kind of those internalized conversations where
Yeah.
you kind of accept it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
so
there's go
go
ahead.
ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so talk to us a little bit more about that. Like when you sit down and you're trying to navigate change, what
Mhm.
is the conversation that you have with yourself, for instance?
For me, it is, um, the hardest part, I think, for anybody is the acceptance that this thing is going to shift, right? That change needs to happen. Because
Yeah.
so often we're resistant, self included, we're resistant to it, right? Because it doesn't feel good, because we're used to this, because this is where we're safe, because this feels comfortable, this feels familiar, and we have no idea what's on the other side of it, right? So the
Yeah.
first thing that I have to do internally is acknowledge that, yep, this shift is going to need to take place. This change is going to have to happen in order for something else to be a breakthrough, right?
Yeah.
So once I accept that this is something that I need to change within myself, not that XYZ or this person or that person needs to change or this organization needs to change, is something that I need to change with myself, then that will trigger the rest of the process for me. So
Yeah.
it's the acknowledgement that change needs to happen, and then me figuring out what my next step is with whatever change that is, right? So
Yeah.
the bigger the change, probably the more steps I have to filter through. The smaller the change, the easier it's gonna be for me to navigate through, but,
Yeah.
um, it starts
Well,
with me first, yeah.
and one of the things that I think is really powerful about what you just said, but maybe you didn't explicitly state it, is that personal thing. The fact is,
Mhm,
like, we cannot dictate what happens out there, like
mhm,
outside of our own, like we cannot navigate circumstances, people, their attitude. Like we can't control for
yep,
that. But what we can do is we can start with ourselves, and we can
mhm,
control our our own thinking, or I guess we can influence our own thinking, create
Mhm.
those new neural pathways. If you do it often enough, you're going to see these patterns, these disrupted thinking patterns start to become more natural, right?
Yeah.
So it all starts, I love that it starts with you. It's kind
Mhm.
of a personal accountability thing. Now, friends, just really quickly to remind you, you are able to participate in this conversation, and we would love for you to do that. Feel free to comment in the comments, share your thoughts. Maybe you're experiencing some change right now that you're having difficulty with, and you want to get Cynthia's thoughts. Maybe you want to share some tips and tricks, things that you have done to navigate. You put up the banner. Thank you. She's still exec producing, even though she's not supposed to be doing that right now. Thank you,
I
Cynthia.
got you.
At any rate, definitely share your thoughts. We would love to hear your questions. We would love to hear about your experiences. So make sure that you're doing that. So, Cynthia, one of the things that you are extremely well, you're known for it, and you're kind of building a brand around it, is that cultivating joy piece.
Mhm.
And I don't think that people often attach the word joy to change. Sometimes
Mhm.
changes are really good, but even the good changes can sometimes be like a little stressful.
A lot stressful,
Think about a
yeah.
wedding. Like,
Yeah,
a wedding is a beautiful thing. That doesn't mean it's a lot of fun to plan.
right.
So let's talk through that a little bit. What are some ways that you can access joy even in uncertainty, or even
Mhm.
in friction or tension, those kind of difficult things that we attach to change?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you can do, to access that is to understand how joy shows up for you. So often when I talk to people about joy and they have questions about joy, there is this it's almost like this thing that they're chasing after, right? Joy looks like this big, bubbly, boisterous thing, right? You think of people like frolicking through a field or something, like, and that's what joy looks like. And sometimes joy looks like that, right? But sometimes joy is subtle and it's comforting and it's just in a
Sometimes it looks
right?
like hot cocoa cuddled up on
It
a
does.
couch with your
Yeah.
partner in front of a fire. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes that's joy. It's a little
Or by
quieter.
yourself, right? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it could be the excitement that you feel when you change the station, the radio station, and a song comes on that's one of your favorite songs or reminds you of something really beautiful.
yeah.
And just that first couple of seconds, you have that, "Ah, I know what's coming up," and it takes you back somewhere else, right? There's joy in that as well. So you have to figure out what joy looks like for you. And in order to do that, you have to figure out what you value. So then
Mm.
2 things happen when you do that. Once you understand what you value, you start to figure out what that joy looks like. And then when change is happening on the other side of that, guess what? You know who you are, you're standing in that, and that helps you to navigate through the change a little bit easier as well. So
What
now
do
you have
you
access to all of these things, all of these tools at the same time. You just
what do
asked
you
me a question.
value?
What do I value? What do you think I value? This is
Hmm. Creativity,
uh-huh.
joy,
Yeah.
um, inclusion.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like you and I actually share some similar core values.
Yeah.
I think because so mine are curiosity, community, inclusion, and I'm like, well, those are all things that Cynthia values too. It's
Yes.
why we're friends.
Integrity is one of my,
Oh, that's a big one
top
of mine.
3.
Although
Yeah.
I actually call it congruence,
Yeah.
alignment of thoughts, words, actions, deeds.
Yeah.
Congruence.
Yeah. Integrity is top 3 for me, creativity is top 3 for me,
Yeah.
and then innovation is top 3 for me as
Ooh.
well.
How does
Yeah.
innovation show up in your life? I wanna hear
In
more.
all sorts of ways, all sorts of
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
You are definitely one of those I've never seen you in a situation where you're like, "Well, we've always done it this way. Let's try it
Yeah,
again."
no,
Like,
mm-mm.
yeah, I can see that
I'm a
that's not.
system breaker. I'm like,
Yeah,
"You
you
the
kinda are.
system is bad.
You're just let's not
It's
call
not
it
this one process. This whole system is bad. Let's disrupt the whole system and
I
start
was gonna
over."
say, I'm gonna call you a disruptor.
Yeah.
We're not gonna say break. I don't know. That might be scary for people. Well,
So
so I
navigate
love
through the
that.
change. It's okay.
So you have clearly thought through and chosen your own values, and then they
Yeah.
kind of reflect in your change management journey. Can you
Mhm.
talk to us about how those show up, those values?
Yeah. I think about, oh gosh, what's the easiest way for me to describe this? There is no easy way for me to describe this.
We
What's the
got some
most
time.
clear way for me to describe this? Um, when you understand what you value and you understand what's important to you, and it's time to make a pivot, it's easier to pivot while you're holding on to those values and point this way in a way that is authentic to you than it is to just try to grasp for straws and, well, this person is doing it that way, or this person is doing it that way, or I've seen people do it this way. Because what happens is when you're grasping for those straws in all those different areas, you get into the change and then you realize there's not alignment there and it
Yeah,
feels off and it still feels bad. And the change just continues to happen around you. And the discomfort or whatever it is still feels bad. And it's still present because you haven't done it in a way that's true to who you are.
yeah. Well,
Yep.
so you feel adrift because of
Mhm.
outside circumstances, which is
Mhm.
whatever change is occurring. And
Mhm.
again, it could be positive change, it could be negative change, but you feel adrift,
Yep.
unsettled, uncomfortable, but then you also feel out of alignment internally because you're
Mhm.
not allowing your what is at your core to kind of inform the choices that you're making at any given
To
moment.
drive. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Okay. I was just checking my understanding there. I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
I think I get it." Well, so talk us through a little more bit more of your internal process, because friends, one of the reasons that we've actually talked to Cynthia multiple times on the show, and it's because one of the things that I admire most deeply about Cynthia, close your ears, uh, but one of the things that I admire most about her is, again, how thoughtful she is. Cynthia is the one when we hang out together at events, I'm, bouncing around from group to group. I'm loud but Cynthia is always just kind of taking in input. You're an observer.
Mhm.
Often you're an active participant, but even when you're like participating in the conversations, like I can see you literally like filing things away for future reference. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking to you right now, but I'm also thinking through a lot of
Yeah.
thoughts about you,
Yeah.
in a totally non-judgmental way. And so you're extraordinarily pensive,
Yeah.
and I'm very interested to hear. So what's the next step? Like you have kind of thought through your what your values are. You've thought through the lens, like as you're navigating change, you've thought through this lens.
Mhm.
What comes next?
It's when you start to ask yourself all the questions that are coming up, right?
Yeah.
You're naturally gonna have all of these questions that will filter, kind of bubble up to the top. Ask them, and answer them truthfully and as honestly as possible, even
Okay.
if the answer does not feel like something that you want. You have to be
Yeah.
honest in it because those answers to that question or those questions will drive your next step.
Well, and so that speaks to self-awareness.
Mhm.
And I know it's something you've got. I think it's something I have sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time. But, but I don't know, self-awareness is one of those things where it's like pretty much everybody thinks that they have it. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, "Ah, but do you really?" So let's talk through that a little bit, because one of the
Sure.
things that I'm really curious about is how do you cultivate self-awareness, and how do you keep that from becoming narcissism? Because
Mhm.
that's kind of the on the spectrum of like things that we can do to screw up our own journeys, like narcissism. I don't need to be thinking about myself and how I show up in the world 24/7.
Yeah.
let some other things in there to breathe. But talk us through that self-awareness piece, because to do any part of this process you're talking about, you really have to know yourself, and you
Mhm.
have to be able to reflect on, as you said, the good things, absolutely, but also the not so good things. You have to own
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so talk us through that.
Yeah, you have to own your part in that, and that's sometimes the hardest part of it, is understanding that maybe it's something that I did or something that I said that has put me in a position that has created the change or the need for change, right?
Yeah.
Um, on the other side of that, I still have the ability to make a shift, to change and do something different, but I have to choose that thing.
Yeah.
I can't be comfortable where I am in the discomfort, right? Like, we like our own mess.
Yeah.
We're comfortable, "It's my
It's,
mess,
there's a
don't worry about
saying
my mess."
There's a saying, "The devil you know is better than the devil you don't." And
Yeah,
so even though
that's
you
what
might
they say.
recognize, yeah, you might recognize that these things that are happening around you are like chaotic or they
Mhm,
are negative, but at the same time, it's like they're very comfortable.
mhm.
I can just sit in the shit here and roll
Yeah,
around in it
I
and
know
feel
what it
really
is.
good.
I know what it looks like.
Because at least I know what's coming out
Mhm,
there. I don't know what's coming.
mhm,
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I do, and and I'm just going to be very honest with you here. So a lot of my reactions to things are rooted in trauma. And
mhm.
like I've gone through many years of therapy to kind of come to some really good cognitive coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
But I'm just very aware that more often than not, my knee-jerk reaction to change into things that make me uncomfortable is very fight or flight. And
Mhm,
that's because of past traumas. And so one of the things that I've had to do is I've actually had to ask other people to hold me accountable. So like Aaron, that's
mhm.
my husband. He is an incredible human being, but he's also very mentally healthy. It's really creepy. You and Aaron are the most mentally healthy people I know, and it weirds me out sometimes. I'm like, so what's that like? Going through life without like deep anxiety or fear at every moment? You're so well adjusted.
I don't
Um,
know, I don't it's still there.
but again, like as you said earlier, you've changed your relationship to it. You
Yeah.
don't allow it to consume you, and I think that
Mhm,
that's the impressive thing. And so, like, I'll ask Aaron. I'll just be like, "Hey, I just feel like maybe I reacted to this situation in an outsized kind of trauma response rather than the normal reaction of someone who is mentally, prepared to deal with life. So,
mhm.
tell me, is that real or not real? Like talk me through it. Like what do you see? And more often than not, he'll be like, "Yeah, that was a little out there, Lauren. You may want
Mm.
to take a breath, think through it."
Yeah.
And so I've actually asked other people to hold me
Mhm,
accountable to help me cultivate that self-awareness over years, because I know that I'm probably too close to it, and there are people in my life who care about me, who understand that like sometimes I might need a little help.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to do that. Friends, in the comments, don't forget to ask your questions, but also share with us your experiences. We want to know, how do you feel about change? What are some of
Mhm.
the things that you do to help navigate change successfully?
And what's the biggest change that you're experiencing right now?
Yeah.
And how can we help you through that change?
Yeah. How can
Yeah,
we help you?
yeah.
Incidentally, what is the biggest change you're experiencing right now, Cynthia?
Oh, man. Um,
I feel like if we're going to ask
gosh, I don't
others to share, like we should
there's so many. I'll use the Joy Sherpa hat right now,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So
my
much of the
favorite
work
hat.
that I've been doing with Launch Crate has been behind the scenes, right? Helping to get the books ready, helping to get the authors ready for when their books are launching. We're launching a book today, and we're doing a live stream tonight for that one. So
Yeah.
it's preparing the authors and getting them ready to be out in the front. But I very much get to do that from the back
Yeah.
where I don't have to be seen. Or I get to be in the front in a way that elevates somebody else, right? I get to
Right.
do just like you're doing and asking the questions and helping them to be in the front. But the work that I'm doing with the Joy and Pain tour puts me directly in the front. Yep, it
You're
just
right
drops me
there.
front and center. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that has been probably one of the biggest changes for me, is being in the front and getting in the practice of being okay with being in the front.
And it is a process. I mean, you and I
Mhm.
have talked before about the fact that, like, with InnovateHER KC, I made an entire career of being the gal Friday or the second
Mhm.
in command to someone else's vision. Like, if you
Yeah.
look at my resume, it's like in every role, that was what I was, the tactician to someone else's vision,
Yeah.
and I was very comfortable there.
Mhm.
But then over the course, like IHKC, it grew so fast, and it became this megalith that I was not anticipating, and all of a
Yep.
sudden I found myself like, I'm the face. I'm the one that people want to talk to about it.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the fact that I kind of hate that. And I'm like, how do we put other people out there? Like, I don't like it. But it's something, it's change that I have had to grapple with.
Mhm.
All of a sudden I'm out in front, and what I say and what I do matters.
Yep.
Um, and that's a difficult change. And I mean, I've had 5 years to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yours is a little more recent. Is that what I'm
It's
hearing?
very recent.
Yeah.
It's very recent. Very recent, yeah.
Well, and I've always known you to be an introvert,
Mhm.
you're a pretty quiet person, you're pretty self-contained, and I know that, you go home at the end of an event, you're just like, "I'm so tired."
I'm definitely drained. But you know what's funny is every time I have taught a class, regardless, of the age of the students, we talk about being an introvert, versus being an extrovert, and I ask them which one they think I am, and they're like, "You're an extrovert."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like,
And
I'm not.
it's so
I'm not
funny
at
to
all.
me. Yeah, well, and because I mean, you fake it remarkably well,
Well,
but, like,
thank you.
I've had people be surprised, with
Yeah,
me. They're just like, "You're an extrovert," and I'm like, "I know that I come across as such, that this is 100% learned behavior." The
yeah.
key is when I come home after a heavy event day, like, I will literally go to Aaron and just be like, "Hey, I love you. Don't
Mm,
talk to me for the next
mm,
3 hours." Like, I
mhm.
can't I can't people anymore.
Yeah,
And you have to start with "I love you." Like, but we've come to an understanding in our relationship that at some points, like, people drain me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
just because I'm good with people and I can be out and, like, I can be very loud and blah, 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 all these things,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that it's not exhausting. And so therein, I have to, like, build in that self-care and that self-awareness piece that, like, now I gots to go. It's time for me to be done with people.
Yeah.
Um,
So we got
also
two comments that came in.
Yeah, so I think that hold on. I'm doing the thing. I'm trying to
I
do the
got
thing.
you. It's up there.
Look at you. Would you she's
It's what I
producing
do.
that.
I do.
We had a whole conversation.
We did.
All right, my biggest change, I think it's learning how to be more assertive, especially as I learn how to be a good leader. I'm such a type B person and a natural supporter from behind that it's hard to lead in the front. So what
Mm.
advice would you have for Kelsey, Cynthia?
Kelsey, first of all,
Hi, by the way,
hi.
hi, Kelsey. We love you.
We need to catch up. We need to have lunch soon. Yeah, gosh. I think, Kelsey, the question that I have for you, and I want you to drop your answer in the chat, is how you see yourself. Um, what does that leading from the front look like to you in the work that you're trying to do? How is that different than you steering from the rear, so to speak? That'll help me to guide you. Hopefully, you're still watching. And
Yeah.
while we're
I
waiting
mean,
for that,
it
any
was just a
thoughts?
minute ago.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. So while we're
Mhm,
waiting for Kelsey to respond, hi, Amy. It's good to see you. I actually cultivate self awareness through tarot.
mhm.
It helps me sort out the BS. My biggest change right now, I'm planning a wedding while grieving my father's death a few months ago. First things
Goodness.
first.
Yeah.
Hey, girl, hey.
Mhm.
As someone who a couple years ago lost my father, like that's a really difficult thing. And that's even if you didn't talk to your dad every single day, just like knowing that he's not in the world is a
Yeah.
big change. Like
Mhm.
it's a very weird and raw feeling, and my heart goes out to you. Amy. And I can't even imagine the stress. I hated planning my wedding, so I don't know. A lot of ladies like it. I'm just like, I hated every second of it. So I am sorry that you have to deal with such
Yeah.
complicated
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
processes around your grief. But
Mhm.
Cynthia, what do you have to say to Amy?
It's, you've got some of the biggest change that you're dealing with, right? I don't know if this is your wedding that you're planning, but you're helping to, create a defining moment for somebody's union, right? You're blending 2 lives together, while also still processing the loss of someone who is very near and very dear to you, is my guess, and such a big part of your life. And you, if it is your wedding, we tend to think about who's gonna give us away, who's gonna walk us down the aisle, and to not have that person there. Um, I can only imagine how heavy that feels. Um, I think that what you're using tarot for, I'm gonna say this and people are gonna be like, "Cynthia's crunchy? What's happening?"
Oh,
Yeah,
woo woo. Can we
yeah,
call it woo woo?
we can
Like
call it
I love
woo-woo, we
talking
can
about
call
woo
it
woo
crunchy,
stuff.
we can call it whatever. But yeah, I think that, whatever mechanism you have created to help you sort through, those feelings that are big and the feelings that are small and all of the things that are in between, is only gonna help to set you up for navigating through the change in the best way possible. I don't even know how the magnitude of this change on both ends of the spectrum is, hard to imagine. But what I know about change, regardless of which type of change it is, on the other side of that change, as you're navigating through that change, as hard as it is, know that on the other side of it, you're gonna be even more of an amazing human being than you are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like Amy, Cynthia is the expert here, but I do just kind of want to acknowledge that, and Cynthia, you kind of hinted at it, but like the fact is, right now you're dealing with a very kind of explicit example of
Mhm.
the cycle of life. Like here we have something that's very joyful. We have a wedding. I'm hoping that you're madly in love with your intended, and you're really really excited about this big event, this huge milestone that so many of us mark in our lives. And then by the same token, you're kind of navigating it while dealing with death and dealing
Yeah.
with grief and dealing with sadness and whatever complicated feelings arise when someone important to us passes. And so
Yeah.
there's, as hard as it may be, like right now you're dealing with some of the most complicated, beautiful, strong things that life can throw at you. And I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, to Cynthia's point, you make it out on the other side, and my goodness, what can't you get through, you
Yeah.
know? So just wanted to acknowledge that. And whatever tools you got, my friend, you use the heck out of them. Crystals,
Absolutely.
tarot,
Mhm.
whatever can help you manifest that self-awareness and that contemplative fluid forward motion, as I
Yeah.
like to call it.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think,
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
one of the things that helps me, especially with grief, is remembering where I am in the moment. It's so easy for us to get caught up on the things that happened in the past, right? And missing all of the things that happened in the past. But if I'm standing in the moment, I have those memories, they're
Yeah.
still with me and I'm still carrying them. Even though their physical presence is not here, um, I still have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really quick, I just want to point out that Crystal Webster is
I
with
love
us,
that.
wrapping you in love and light, Amy.
Mhm.
And one of the really cool, we're actually having a similar conversation, or some similar themes to the conversation that we had with
Yeah.
Crystal Webster for our last IHKC live. So Crystal, hey, Crystal was sharing solace. We talked about grief, how to navigate grief, because it's really difficult and nobody gives us a playbook that's going to work 100% of the time for everybody.
Yeah.
So hey, Crystal, and thank you. She also added, it's the difference between pain and suffering, and
Mhm.
there is a marked difference between those two things. So
Absolutely.
coming back, we're going to come back to Kelsey. We gave Kelsey a little bit of time to respond.
Mm,
And Cynthia, what do you think?
okay. So initially she said, "Thank you,
You
Lauren."
got it.
I was
I'll
I was
warm
trying
back
to read
up.
it.
But my biggest change, I think, it's learning how to be more assertive as I learn how to be a good leader. I have never thought of Kelsey as a type B person, but I guess I can see it. I mean,
I
I don't
can
know.
see it.
You're telling.
I can see it, but I also see her in front, um,
Yeah.
which is which is you know, it's interesting, and it may be interesting, Kelsey, for you to hear this, right? Because the way that we see ourselves when we're looking in the mirror, we see all of the tiny little minute details that everybody else doesn't necessarily see.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at you, we see polished Kelsey,
That's
right?
right.
So for
Incredible,
me,
fantastical leader.
yeah, for me, I can see where you would see yourself as a type B person and a natural supporter from behind. But I do also see you, especially in the work that you're doing in helping people to identify what story they want to tell the world with their marketing and their branding. I actually see that as the way that you're leading, right? So you're making decisions, you're pushing people to get to their goal, which is what you were acknowledging in your follow up, right? But I feel like you're doing that naturally as you're also leading from the back, if that makes sense.
And the thing is like, so I'm taking this executive development class right now, and it's really fascinating. But one of the things, one of the pieces of messaging that's really coming home to me is the fact you can find leaders anywhere. You can
Mhm,
find leaders out in front. You can find
mhm.
them on the line. You can find them in the C-suite. You can find
Yeah.
them. You can find them in the back. Like you can absolutely lead without having to be public,
Yeah,
without
you can
having
lead
to
from
be.
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, if I had to share my thoughts on Kelsey as well, like Kelsey, if you think you're in the back, I think you're leading from there
Mhm,
for
mhm.
sure. I've definitely seen you kind of stay. I mean, you and I have known each other for a while, and you're kind of stepping into your greatness, my friend. Like, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Kelsey now says, "So good. I never thought about it."
There you
So,
go.
so good for you, Cynthia. Just
Hey.
getting to the insights. Well done. We had Danielle weigh in. After building a company from the ground up for the last 23 years, it's time to find a new challenge.
First and foremost, my gosh, from the ground up for 23 years. Can we give it? Yes.
Well done. Let us honor and acknowledge that, my friend,
Congratulations.
because man,
Wow. I'll be
23. So we just
yeah,
celebrated 5. Cynthia, you celebrated 5 like a year. Are
6.
you on
Yeah,
6
so we just
now?
hit 6.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, we're working
I
on
can't
7.
even fathom. I think 23 might kill me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well done, Danielle.
That is amazing. We got some goals there, Lauren.
But it's time. I know, right? I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine it.
Look at
But at
Kelsey's
the
checking
same
in there.
time, like, just acknowledge where you're at. That's huge. But
Yeah.
that's a big change. You do anything for 23 years and think about doing something else, and that's got to be really intimidating.
It could be
What
intimidating. It could also be refreshing, right? We don't
yeah,
know what that
it could
23
be.
years look like. It could be like,
Right.
"Mm-mm, I need something else."
We got some more round of applause for Danielle. But what would you, Cynthia, what would you say to Danielle, like,
Yeah, I
as she's
guess
looking to move forward?
yeah, think about, what is calling to you. I feel like in those 23 years, there was probably something else that was just kind of in the back that was like, "Hey, don't forget about me. Remember we love doing this thing? Remember this is one of the goals that you had?" Um, I feel like that may be something to look at, to lean towards.
Yeah.
Danielle, my question for you, if you're still watching, and even if this is on the replay, drop your answer in the chat. What are you leaning towards now? You're looking at finding a new challenge. What are you leaning towards
Yeah.
now? And if you're not leaning towards anything, what brings you joy? Because maybe there's a new challenge in something that brings you joy, something that you
Yeah.
love doing.
So for me, the thing that always kind of lives in the back of my head is writing a book. And like, you
Mhm.
know something about that, Cynthia. We've actually
Do
talked about it
I?
before,
Mhm.
but I'm just like, one of these days,
Yep.
I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna outline the stupid thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna get it like on paper, get it written because it lives in my head rent free, just hangs out
Mhm.
all the time. Because I mean, I've always been a writer,
Yeah.
and I think I'm pretty good at it. Yeah.
Yes, you
But
are, really. You're really
but
good
it's
at it.
one of those things where it's like I have to make the time, I have to make it the priority, and right now innovator is the priority.
Mhm.
So will I do it? Yeah, probably eventually.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that always lives in my head.
You know what it is for me?
What's that?
Music.
I can sense that about you because you're so involved in so many different creative endeavors.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I was like, well, Cynthia's already written her books and she's started her company and she's been an educator and she's doing the running thing. Like you manifest the things that live in your brain
I'm like, "Let's go."
really
Yeah, let's
well.
do
Like you're
it.
just like, if you think it, then I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I love that about you, but I'm just like, I couldn't even think of something that Cynthia. But
I've
all right, the music. That's the
I've
thing.
had I've
Okay.
yo, it's funny. I've had, like 5 people in the last couple of months call me an executor. They're like, "You're such an executor. Like, how do you do it?" And I'm like, it has literally
Silly thing to do.
become yeah, that's what it is, right? I've gotten in the practice of you see it, you just figure out if it's something that
Yeah,
you wanna do, you figure out what the next step is, so
yeah. Well, oh, that we could all be so self-actualized.
You can. It just
But
takes
that's
practice
why we call you the Joy Sherpa,
and a
because
lot of
you're
grace.
bringing other people along on
You
this
gotta give
journey
yourself
that you've
grace.
actuated.
So I think that's the piece that people miss, right?
Yeah,
It's giving yourself the space to get it wrong, the space to mess up, the
yeah.
space to try again.
Oh, that's a really good point. We're about to wrap it here, but I do
Mhm.
want to I'm gonna put like the explicit label next to this because I really, really, really want to use a curse word here, and I try not to on IHKC Lives, but I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna fuck it up. Anytime you are dealing with the unfamiliar, and that's what change is, yeah, you're gonna screw it up. You're gonna mess it up, I promise. So just get real comfortable with
And
that.
that's
No.
okay. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
okay.
okay. Just know that it's gonna happen. Like
It's
it's
coming.
not really an if, it's a win. It's a
Yeah.
win for
It's
sure.
o it's okay.
But yeah, like again, kind of change your relationship, like change your relationship to failure. Like I didn't fail here.
Mhm.
This is there's a saying out there, and I think it might have even been Einstein, but I did, or no, it was Edison. But I didn't fail. I just found 99 ways that didn't work.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
there it is.
go back to the drawing board.
That's that whole thoughts dictating your actions, right?
Yeah.
It drives it.
Well, so Cynthia, we're about to wrap here, but I am going to ask you what final advice would you give to the folk out there who may be navigating change or maybe looking at navigating change, thinking like Danielle, thinking about the ways in which life could look different? What's your
Mhm.
advice to them?
Mm. Outside of giving yourself some grace, I think the biggest thing that I'd want people to know is to stay open, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think on the other side of change it's gonna look like this. It may not. It may look even better than that, right?
Yeah.
Stay open.
All right. Well, I love that. And of course, friends, we invite your comments below. And actually, I'm going to have Cynthia, I'm about to tell you what's happening with IHKC over the course of the next month or so. But first things first, because Cynthia does this so much better than I ever do. Cynthia, will you do the thing? Can
What's
you do
the
the
thing,
thing?
Lauren?
I'm not going to say it. I want you to do the thing.
You all, if you enjoyed the content that you heard today, make sure that you share it with somebody else who would find value in it. Make sure that you add your comments, your thoughts below, because we love interacting with you. We come back from time to time and make sure that we follow up with those, even who watched it on the replay and not live. So make sure that you comment and also follow us and subscribe.
Said like the true executive producer and shining star that you are. Didn't she do so well, y'all? Round of applause. All right, Cynthia, I'm going to go ahead and kick you off screen and we're going to talk about what's coming up next with IHKC. But thank you so much, friend. As always, lovely to talk with you.
See you later.
And as for you, friends, we are almost done here, but I am going to let you know that tomorrow we have a Keystone session. It's one of our Perfect Your Pitch series. We're going to be talking about the media. If you've ever wanted to have your story told on radio, print, on TV. This is going to be the workshop for you. We're going to be talking to representatives from KSHB, KCUR, and the Kansas City Business Journal. Those all start with K. At any rate, we're going to be talking to them about ways to put together your press, how to empower yourself to give interviews on the news and things like that. How do you do that, and how do you do it well? And then on the 20th, we're actually still recruiting mentors for our day of service with junior achievement. We are definitely we're going to have some fun. We're going to be helping some kids by mentoring them. It'll be amazing. Coming up on, I'm trying to figure out what else we have going on, so just bear with me. Hold on. I think that might be it over the course. We do have our monthly meetup, but I haven't determined where that's going to be yet because I just have no idea. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia just popped. She's executive producing again. At any rate, definitely keep an eye out for IHKC events coming up. We are currently looking for pitchers, founders to pitch for Girls Just Want to Have Funding, taking place during Global Entrepreneurship Week. That'll be on November 17th. So if you are interested in pitching, let us know. We will get you the link to apply. But we're very excited about our pitch showcase coming up. So we want you to be a part of it. And then if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. hello@innovateherkc.com. Join IHKC if you're not already a part of our 6,600 plus member community for women plus leaders in the Kansas City area. And definitely keep on coming back to watch IHKC Lives. We will catch you next time.